All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Oregairu, Season 3, Episode 9. Oh boy.
All right, Hachiman, you had the conversation. You spoke with Yukino. You figured out that you were right and wrong. This is exactly the way that you thought it could go.
You can't split hairs on things like this, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. But in some ways, Yukino's going for it all, also potentially
in her own way,
by ending this.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be, because she was, subconsciously wanting him
Hachiman's
to
help. Yeah. And now, okay, we're at the point where the cost will be paid for this, whatever it is,
right? Because
it's that important.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't end up being a super steep cost, but it will be if it has to.
It will be some pain. It will be some worry. It will be some maybe some immediate isolation with regards to the club.
And also some more pain probably on Yui's side, because it's go fulfill Yui's wish. Well, if someone else is telling you to do it, that doesn't really work.
Yep.
So
we're going to see basically the
at
the very least
the darkest timeline. I don't know.
well, something along the lines of almost like the alternate timeline of, let's see what them together kind of looks like.
Yeah, which on that front, I am excited to see it. I just
same.
People are gonna get hurt.
Yeah, but Hachiman has a bunch of allies outside of Yukino and Yui.
Yes.
And their role to play could be pretty exciting, especially being able to look at things from a fresh perspective.
Please, Hachiman. Yes. Tell Komachi everything.
Just download the full data package.
Right, and then just be like, what do I do, Sensei?
This is it. This is it. And she's going to be like,
all right, Oni-chan. So this might not necessarily be a lot of points in my book, but I'm going to tell you some things,
Perfect. All right, y'all, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. All right. Okay. We had our homely encounter with Yui and Gahama-MAMA.
Yeah. Which great nickname.
That is amazing.
It's fantastic.
Yes, but also we have now seen what the stagnant awkwardness post rejection, if you will, from Yukino kind of looks like.
Yeah.
And it's really awkward. Now, to be fair, it's not going to stay this way, but there's an aspect of this that is going to carry over, for quite a bit.
I would almost even say that it's not even too awkward with Yukino. It's just that there's the boundaries that she's basically placed, right? And not everyone is privy to that, so Iroha will be trying to and it's like, no.
But the way she spoke was super awkward. She used 27 words to say something that could be said in 4 words because she's being super awkward.
Yukino's way of doing things, but
it's and then, and it's also she's being really
and more importantly,
with
it's the thing of when they're having this conversation, she's not actually talking to Hachiman, even though she's wanting to talk to Hachiman. She's talking to Iroha, who's talking to Hachiman.
And then when did I become your guys' interpreter?
Right. And then on top of that, anytime that so there's the conversation that's happening, and then there's the fact that again, Yui was like, oh yeah, they're all walking together, and then all of a sudden, nope, she doesn't say a single thing.
Nope.
Throughout this conversation, because she doesn't need to, right? It's not about her and all of that stuff, right? But she's seeing all this.
Oh man.
So. But
thankfully, this episode started off perfect.
Started off fantastic.
Komachi gives us the wonderful little reminder that, we've got some stuff coming up, And
in a lot of ways, Hachiman kind of pulls a Yukino of not wanting help, right? I'll tell you about it once this is all over, but I won't say anything until then.
And I think that's something that's prudent because Hachiman understands that there's a possibility that Komachi, wise beyond her years that she is, could end up maybe blundering into something that's a little bit more tense than he's comfortable letting her know about here.
Yep, and
so it's understandable.
And when it comes right down to it, whatever Hachiman does has to be his decision.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, of course.
And there's a part of him that realizes that, even if he's not necessarily acknowledging it, because when he is hanging out with Yui, he's still putting up those barriers and and those things of like, okay, making sure that the subtext doesn't go fully a certain way, and that whole acknowledgement of yes, this fantasy, right? This impossible fantasy, if it were to continue.
That's the stuff he talks about with Yui, though, at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Because the thing that felt like really, really on the nose this episode is the idea that Yui doesn't want to just communicate the wish that she has here.
Right. Because
she doesn't want to have the fantasy be completely brought out into the light, because then it'll be tested as to whether or not it's a fantasy.
And this is more of like something, a read that I'm getting off of it.
Sure.
But that she can tell that when Hachiman inquires as to her wish, he's not there's contingencies to it. It's not truly because he wants to fulfill all her little wishes and things like that, and it's great and stuff. Mm-hmm. But if she actually told him what her real wish was, he would want to fulfill that because it's a wish to be fulfilled, not because that is a particular wish that he wants to fulfill.
For sure.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's the equivalent of when you have someone that comes to you with kind of a question or some kind of an inquisitive curiosity. There's sometimes the feeling that you're being interviewed. And what that does is it puts the air that what they're doing is they're going through motions, essentially.
Right.
For the purpose of, the sake of asking questions, not actually wanting to connect via the questions.
Sure.
Now, I don't think that is actually really entirely how Hachiman does things.
No.
Especially not in this case here. I think that what's happening, though, is where he has other people's words in his mouth. So they are very easy to be read through by Yui that they are not fully genuine, even though they are intended to be.
This is not the banter that he has with Yukino, basically. Mm-hmm. Like that was very sort of free, casual banter, and as a result of that, they ended up going down a path that they had decided they wanted to try and avoid, right?
Yep.
And in this situation here, when it gets close to that kind of witty banter, there's all these places where Hachiman basically puts up stops.
Yeah.
Right? Where Yui starts to actually say something where she's continuing on the whole thing of her different wishes, and maybe she's, albeit in a very roundabout way, starting to circle around to the thing that she actually wants to talk about.
Yep.
But then when she gets close to that, then Hachiman does the thing of, yes, why don't you just, say that I'm a terrible person as a whole, right? Doing all of these things to basically tell her to kind of stop talking, and at the same time, doing it in a self-deprecating way so that it doesn't, it can't be called out for being that.
Yeah, there's a certain type of I would say conversation that is not really conversation that Hachiman employs at times, I would say, for defense mechanisms, and it's basically the equivalent of answering your own question. So you put out a rhetorical question of sorts into the air, and then you make a judgment or a value call, or a value judgment, I think is usually the phrase, on what it is as a statement, and that kills the conversation. And it basically says, in no uncertain terms, really, no certain terms, I would like to reset the conversation.
Or another way of...
And just
Sure.
Yeah.
Or another way of thinking about it is, I'm not actually interested in what you were going to say or what your thoughts were on that other thing that I said.
Well, that's a bit more of a potentially malicious side of things.
Well, not necessarily that it has to be in a malicious way, but that it's I already have an answer for this. I'm not actually looking for your response.
But interest is a bit of a vague word. I think in this case here, Hachiman is a person who might be more tepid, worried about going into those areas rather than not being interested. in that it's the idea of where he sees where this is going. Like he's not dumb. He knows that she likes him, and he knows that she's trying to move things in that direction. And instead of it's like the aversion versus interest. Here he's because of course he shows sensitivity, if you will, to those topics by avoiding them. But
yeah. One of the things that I was kind of curious to see how they would handle after the last episode and how that went is because the last episode left off with a development within the sort of romantic triangle drama, all of that stuff that that I'm fairly familiar in seeing in other shows, but I was curious to see how Oregairu would handle it.
Which part is that?
In the Don't Be With Me, the couple that's obviously canon, there's pushback, and then basically the person is told or communicated from somebody, doesn't have to be the other romantic interest, right? To go and try and make it work with this other person, right? As more of a thing of should or something like that, some external force and motivation rather than because it's what they actually want and choose, right?
Sure.
And then usually that ends up the way that ends up concluding is that then the person realizes this isn't actually what they want and they need to follow their own heart.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that development, but it usually takes away from my respect of the self-awareness of the person who does that, right? Because wouldn't you know that that's how it would end in the first place? Why do you go through the whole debacle and potentially really hurting the other person's feelings by kind of leading them on, right?
I see.
In Hachiman's case, he is a very smart cookie, right? He's not going to get deceived by it, right? He mentions that this is the fantasy, and while he would love to stay in this fantasy forever, that's, when it comes right down to it, impossible. That's not going to work, right?
No.
And I think that's why when Yui tries to really take this as far as it'll go, he's like, hold on. Hold on. Because he realizes deep down, I'm kind of entertaining her. And maybe not that he would see it that way, but that's from a perspective on it. That's what he's doing.
And then she flipped the script on him and was like, "Well, then tell me your wish, because that's one of my wishes is to fulfill your wish." And he can't really say that,
right?
Yeah,
and that's because
that was a really cool moment.
Yui knows what's going on. She talked to Yukino, right? They didn't talk about what her and Yukino talked about in any depth or whatever, but I'm sure the situation was communicated. And I gotta say, Yukino, good on you for doing that, right? Yeah. Because that way Yui is prepared for whatever changes happen. She knows where it's coming from and things like that. And so,
She might not know details, though.
She might not know details.
I would assume she does not know details.
I'm sure there are some things that Yukino doesn't want to share with Yui because that's,
it could be hurtful.
Could be hurtful, just general privacy, and the fact that we know that one of the big issues is that the two of them haven't had that conversation, and that's why in the past, Yui hasn't been able to actually be honest with herself about her own feelings, because she hasn't had the conversation with Yukino, and she doesn't want to hurt Yukino, right? There you go. Yeah. But then we have the whole thing, even with Yumiko, names are so similar, where she's like, just from a single text, right? A single text, she goes up to Hachiman and she's like, "Hey, don't half-ass this. It'll really piss me off if you do."
Yeah. By the way, that text was something that's hilarious and funny because for whatever reason, I tuned out Tobei's talking to the point where I didn't even acknowledge that he was speaking at that time, and thus the subtitles were regarding what he was saying to Hayato, not that Hachiman was texting Hayama.
No, it's fine. I know that you ship Hachiman and Hayama. Well, and I can totally respect that.
Hayama and Hachiman are like the most genuine relationship, like with Hachiman involved in there, probably like in the entire show.
Ooh, that's tough. I don't know. Hiratsuka's pretty strong.
Hold on. No. Let's actually go back. Yeah, there's a lot of others in there. Hiratsuka, Kamachi. There's contenders.
But
in terms of the ones that aren't either incestuous or
or predatory.
Just too old.
Right.
Well, I mean, she's not. Well, anyway,
he's 15, I think. No.
He's a lot older.
Is it it's his second year?
He's
in high
at
school.
least 16.
Yeah, he's a second year.
He's
so
at
16.
least 16. Yeah.
But still.
But anyway, yeah. point being, I very much just get excited. I'm like, Hayama,
right.
Real shit, what? So that all being said, I just wanted to clarify why I thought that it was Hayama he was texting. So Yui and him then spending the rest of that time together on Saturday, where they get to then make the cake and everything. Yeah, and there are a couple little quiet, subtle things that are callbacks, and it feels like the end of a series when you do this. This episode had a lot of little callbacks like that.
Oh yeah,
a lot of little moments.
There was the cookies, the chocolate, the fact that, or the dog for one.
The dog was a big one.
The dog is a huge one. The fact that then he was saying like, oh yeah, I want to pay you back for the cookies you gave me the other time, which
paying you back.
Yeah. Well, no. So there's two different ways I see of looking at this.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
One is the I'm keeping things very casual by making sure that there's quid pro quo exactly. Yep. The other one is
that's the one I was thinking of.
Those were supposed to be Valentine's cookies, and well, it's early because it's not White Day yet, but here you go. Which then makes it be the reciprocation.
Right, which is, I believe, as far as I know, depends on what he's giving her, of course, because we don't know actually what's inside there.
I think they're the tarts, and then he was saying that.
Oh, he's not giving any to Komachi then?
Well, he mentioned that like I'll make some with her. So it might be that he's basically saying these aren't even going to end up being for Komachi. Which, if that's the case, then I'm not sure how to feel about that, because it's almost like saying. These things that we made together will never actually be partaken of in my in my house, right? Like it's the not that he would be intending that, but it's
annulling their
original
reaction
purpose
of existence.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, their ripple effect.
Yeah, they can stay with you. This is a memory that you will get to enjoy. No one else will. It's not that Hachiman again would intend that, but it's that additional distance that Hachiman is basically putting in there. If that is what was intended, it's possible that was just some of them.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when he goes back to Komachi.
Yeah,
because there's a very high likelihood that they're going to have a little bit more of a get together before.
Right.
Well, that was because of what happened at the beginning of the episode.
If anything, I just want, because I can respect Hachiman wanting to make sure that there are still boundaries if he is aware that this isn't actually.
He's very aware.
He's very aware of himself. But that being
she
said,
likes him too.
Don't half-ass it.
Right.
Like Yumiko said, and not half-ass it as far as intent, but half-assing it as far as what you let slide and what you don't, because then that can send mixed messages and make it worse.
Yeah, the whole secret ingredient thing.
Yeah, that was like, oh man, you can't just mess around like that, dude. Like that's yeah.
Oh, but wow, Gahama-MAMA.
Yep,
she's incredible.
She's incredible. And I gotta say, I love that she is so trying to like cheer her daughter on and cheer the two of them on. Really, you know, even though in a lot of ways she's kind of getting in the way, not just from the standpoint of hanging around them and making it so that they're not alone, but then also doing the thing where she tries to push them together, which then might either make Yui pull apart or Hachiman pull away or both of them or whatever. And it's maybe more of that example of, well, almost codependency, you know, where it's the positive reinforcement that actually ends up being crippling, because then the person doesn't end up being forced to fend for themselves. Because
I have stories. I have stories I could share about that. It was very common back when I was around like 16 or so, that if I ever ended up in, because I had to kind of reset my friend group around like the age of 14 and 15 because we moved and stuff, and there was only like one guy in my like friend circle and stuff like that was like that I would see regularly, but there were quite a few girls, so I would end up being decent friends with some of them. But if I was ever alone with one of them at their house doing anything, their moms, and it was these two specifically, would just be like,
I think I know specifically the mom you're talking about.
And it was painful. It was painful because Actually, I did like one of them, but but the idea that kind of pushing, that kind of like was happening, and we're both very aware, very awkward,
and I'm sure it's entertaining for the parent to see their kid squirm a bit and blush and be like, "Oh, stop it!
Don't do that! It's so annoying." My god!
Well, and it can go past the whole thing of annoying, because if it's simply annoying, that can just be like friendly teasing from the parent.
It's
right?
like Iroha and Hachiman's banter. It can totally just be a thing where they annoy each other.
Right. It's the dad jokes. It's like, nobody likes them, but it doesn't actually cause any real trouble. But in this case, it can.
Yeah.
So, like the fact that she brought up the whole thing of like the secret ingredient or whatever, and like the whispering in Yui's ear, and then Yui blushing like
oh my god,
she was about to pass out.
Like, I just have to see that
I have never seen
again.
such a deep shade of red on an anime character that wasn't like their hair or something.
Like, it was deeper than...
Like, beet red.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh.
Like when she turns and is like, burying her face in her mom's like shoulder, it's... Yeah, so...
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So, graduation is happening. It was cool seeing Meguri up there.
Yeah.
There's this feeling with the school every once in a while that it's not really a part of the story.
Right. It's a plot mechanism.
It is a plot mechanism, but every once in a while we're reminded about the Hayama clique.
Sure.
We're reminded about, things that happened in previous, years.
Yeah, Kawasaki Saki, for instance.
Yep. And just, stuff that's happened around this school when they had events and things like that.
Right.
Like the Culture Festival.
Yeah, and what's her name?
Yeah.
I love that it focused on her when it's like, yes, the festivals. I forget which one was the one that she was running. I think it was the Culture.
It was the Culture one.
Yeah, it was the Culture Festival. But, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just... there's a lot of times in this story where the drama and the characters within them were like amped up to their highest bit because it was so like high stakes for a lot of them specifically.
Right.
But a lot of these memories get recontextualized by the idea that there was so much energy put into it, and thus they cared about them so much. And as they start to realize that they have less and less time here, like Hachiman, for instance, realizing everything's going to change.
All of a sudden, these are
tears.
Genuine tears.
I feel for the guy. Because I have to make a little bit of a leap here and think that he's not just thinking about the good times he's had here.
Sure.
But I think he's thinking about like the good and the bad.
Shadow proves the sunshine. It's I was a bit surprised by this scene where they're doing the addressing to the student body or whatever, because it's like all of a sudden we're doing this, and when I heard Iroha's voice being all like choked up and stuff before I actually like saw her, I was thinking she was doing like sort of playing it up a bit to lean into the sort of like, I'm cute and all that stuff, and
it's possible she was.
Yeah, it's possible that she was. But then it's like, no, wait, no, hold on. No, this really does mean a lot for her because
because of the things that she's been trying to make happen for the last little bit
on the little amount of time that she has, right? And then of course, when it gets to Hachiman, it's like, I totally get that, right? Because this is the all good things must come to an end, and the fact that that the old president Shiro Meguri or Meguri Shiro Meguri or Shiro Meguri names was all talking about how like this is the end for me, but you guys still have so much time. It's like, about that.
But hey guys, we only have a few episodes left. It's all good. It's no big deal. And just seeing the boys, hanging out with Hachiman and Sai trying to
the tissues,
and calm him down and stuff. Be like, "You okay, man? Yeah, it's okay." And
Tobey just missing the point.
Yeah, exactly. But then the little call out and we're all Chiba idiots, so in order to dance, let's sing a song. What I liked about this is Haruno and
the mom different responses.
Had different responses to that.
Yeah.
And there was almost this vibe that you could see from the other members,
right.
which I
the
assume
high
to be
society
the PTA.
kind of like.
Well, I assume them to be just the PTA.
Oh, okay, sure.
Like, why is Haruno even here at all?
Right.
In this group. This is a very small group of people here. But they're all adults, and then it's Haruno. And Haruno chuckles at this.
Right.
Because I almost think that there's some level where she's like, I did something similar like that, too.
Right. It's like, that takes me back.
My juniors, yes.
It very much feels like the... Because I never fully understood the vibe within the universe of why... Shiro Meguri was the student council president, right? Because we didn't necessarily like get to know her all that much. You know, we got a general vibe from her, but you know, it was she wasn't like the true focus character.
What?
And
am I mixing her up with someone else? Wasn't she in the end of season 1?
She
was crying.
I don't.
On the roof?
No.
Different character.
No, that was actually the thing that I thought was odd back then, is that she was Shiro Meguri was fairly passive during that arc.
Meguri.
Oh yeah. Well, I like the repetition.
We don't call him Yui Gahama.
Yeah, or Yukino Shita. Yeah, it's true. But the energy that she brings to the table, it's like, yes, that's right. This is why she was the student council president. And the fact that she gets all the students, you know, like excited, and sort of that like youthful just energy.
Well, it's the prom. It's the energy that's going to make the prom happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
Well, except she's not actually the one running the prom.
No, of course not. Of course not. But this is the response, basically, of the prom. Hell's yeah, let's go.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's that youthful energy, and of course Haruno. That's something where she's like, that's takes me back. But then all of the older people in the fancy clothes and everything are just like, okay.
So what do you get from that? Like,
just that it's one, I like to see Yukino's mom be like,
oh, gotcha,
not enjoying something,
right?
But then also the fact that, by contrast, Haruno is totally just laughing at it amidst all of that.
Yeah, and then we get our end credits bit, which is nice. It's a little bit with Meguri having just yes, you know, you got to go out and do something fun again. You know, I've already graduated, but you guys still have time for all that. Which is, I love any time a character at the end of a series says, you guys have so much time.
Right.
Because it's hilarious.
Really, we only have like 3 or 4 more episodes.
Right. But the idea of, okay, see you at the prom, you know.
Right.
Which is like, is that guaranteed yet? I didn't think it necessarily was yet. But as far as it seems like they got it. Might be in the books now, because they had the conversation with Yukino's mom in the previous episode.
And if they won over Yukino's mom, I get the feeling that it's just there's no doubt about it that she could get the PTA on their side.
Right. So is this happening?
I think so. Yeah, there's the organizational things that Yukino was talking about that she needed to take care of and stuff.
True.
Yeah,
that's a good point. But then that means potentially next episode, prom time, or at the very least, within 2 episodes, I would say, prom time.
Yeah, I'm curious where that will fall, because I could see prom being like the very end of it, but if it's not the very end of it, prom will at the very least be where the conflict is brought to a climax, right? And then the question is do we get like falling tension after that, or like what happens? You know?
Yeah, I assume there will be some falling tension.
Like
at the very end of this show. This is the kind of
what
show
does that look like?
It's a snafu. We need falling tension. Like,
oh man, oh boy.
Oh my god. But yeah, y'all, that's basically what we've got here. Tame episode, actually, all things considered.
Yes, because the things that could be said weren't being said.
So
I'm sure it's going to be fine in the end.
Yeah.
It's all going to be fine.
Thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. You can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.